Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to the State of the Department address. You'll get CME credit for it, so that's good. This is not a one-time event. I think I'm going to do it once a year at the beginning of the academic year in September, give you an update. It's a large department, a lot of things happening, and I want to share them with you. I have nothing to disclose except that I have 103 slides, so I'll try to do it quickly so you get to the id slide. Okay, so when we talk about the State of the Department address, I think the starting point is our mission. Everything that we're doing should come and stem from our mission and to serve our mission. So let me read you the somewhat revised mission that we recently wrote. Building upon our Bronx roots, our mission is to improve the health of the people and communities we serve through compassionate, patient-centered care, scientific discovery, humanistic education, community engagement, and absolute commitment to social justice. And as you'll see, the theme throughout my talk today is how we're accomplishing this mission. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what is this glass artwork slide? This is a picture I took a few weeks ago at the New York Botanical Gardens from the beautiful Ciulli exhibition. He's a glass artist, and I highly recommend you, for those of you who didn't see it, to go visit it. It's open until the end of October, but if you're too busy to see it, I've embedded a few more pictures in my talk for your enjoyment. Before starting and talking about the present and the future, we have also to remember the past. The success of this department and institution is in large part due to the work of so many people across many decades. And last year we lost 6 faculty giants of this institution, and I'd like to mention them. Tom Aldrich, who was the former chief of pulmonary medicine and former program director of the pulmonary division. Norman Bank, the former chief of nephrology. David Harmerman, the former chair of medicine and the founding and first division chief of geriatrics. Harold Kelz, a professor of pulmonary medicine. Milford Fulop, who was the former chair of medicine at Einstein and the residency director at Jacobi. And Ron Nagel, who was the chief of hematology and a world-renowned expert on hemophilia. Our department gets its energy from many strengths and assets that we have. We are part of a unified world-class hospital and medical school with visionary leadership, exceptional faculty, scientists, educators, providers, and staff. That's you here and coming to these grand rounds and in the department. Outstanding basic science departments with a growing connection to the clinical departments. Strong institutional identity with unparalleled sense of mission that I haven't seen in many other places that I visited and worked in. And most importantly, a strong bond with a vibrant and diverse Bronx community that is really energizing us. So who are we? It's a large department with close to 1,000 physicians. Half of them are full-time and about half are voluntaries, with 914 beds and 45,000 discharges per year. Our primary care providers care for 40,000 patients and have 110,000 visits per year. As you know, we have a large medical school class with 774 medical students, and every year, all of them are trained in the Department of Medicine, in the both preclinical and clinical clerkships. We have a large residency program with 156 residents, 143 fellows, and a large Wakefield residency program with 74 residents. In research, our department has the largest research portfolio in the medical school with 120 principal investigators, and as expected, the majority of them in our department are MDs. Last year saw a lot of recruitments, and I'd like to start by mentioning them, and starting with 5 leadership recruitments that we've done in the past year. Michael Ross came to us from Mount Sinai, and he is the new division chief of nephrology. Sharon Rikin came to us from Columbia, and she's the new director of ambulatory QI. Giora Weitz came to us from Jerusalem, and he is the new director of interventional cardiology. Harish Sithamraju came to us from Beth Israel Newark, and he is the new medical director of our new lung transplant program that was just established at Montefiore. And Sheena Moultrie was here at Montefiore in cardiology, left for private practice, but quickly realized that her home is here, so came back to be our practice director in the Department of Medicine. And there's ongoing leadership recruitments. We are in the final stages of recruiting a new chief of endocrinology. Norman Fleischer decided that after 45 years, he is retiring. And the division of GI and liver will be split into two divisions, where liver will be led by Alan Wolkoff, and we're recruiting, and also in advanced stages of recruiting a new chief for the new GI division. We've recruited in the past year 46 new faculty across all faculty ranks, you can see here. And I also would like to highlight that the 5 new positions and recruitments that we did for divisional clinical administrators, Madeleine Solis, Jeanette Soto, Yuk Chan, Juanita Sanchez, and Shadrach John. And for the first time in the history of the department, each division now has a clinical administrator, and we're seeing their impact significantly, both on operations, budgets, and the overall functioning of the divisions. So I'd like to welcome them to our department. I'll start by talking about the clinical mission. There is a lot to talk about, and I'll highlight the areas that we're focusing on them. So starting with the inpatient operations, it is my belief that the backbone of our inpatient operations is the hospital division, and building on this solid and strong backbone are our specialists that work on the inpatient. And while our inpatient operation encompass many things, I'd like to highlight 3 areas that we're working on: reducing the length of stay, reducing the hospital-acquired complications, and reducing the 30-day readmission rate. Likewise, the outpatient operations, their backbone is our primary care division of general internal medicine. And on this solid backbone, we build our specialties. And again, they are busy doing many things, and I'll discuss some of them a little bit later. But 3 areas that I'd like to highlight that are challenges that we're now addressing are our access to care is definitely not optimal, and we have a lot of work to do there, with the goal of having an appointment within 2 weeks and be able to triage those that need an appointment even earlier. We're working on improving the quality and efficiency of our practices, and we want, and it's very important, to increase the patient and physician satisfaction in the practices. And as you well know, these are very tied together. And the third arm of our clinical work is the population health work, which is a collaboration between the Division of General Internal Medicine and the Department of Epidemiology and Population Health. And they're working basically to improve the outcomes at the population level. Again, there are a lot of initiatives that I don't have time to talk about, but I'd like to highlight 2 new initiatives using new technologies. First, cloud-based clinical data capture and analysis, and telemedicine, which is a new Monty initiative in which the department is leading the way. Our faculty practice is a large part of our clinical operation, and it has a very strong leadership that you all know. Jennifer Garner is our unified department administrator, Eric Epstein, the medical director of the practice, Sheena Moultrie, the administrator of the practice, and Jasmine Porter that we recruited recently as the billing supervisor. We have practices across all campuses and in other sites. Looking at the numbers, as you can see, there has been a steady and solid growth in our collections by more than 20% in the past 2 years, which is significant and very strong. And if you ask yourselves, why are our collections and revenue increasing, that is because our physicians are more productive. And that is reflected by the RVU graph that parallels this graph. Yes, we are working hard to improve the collections themselves from the work that you're doing, but by and large, the majority of the increase of our revenue is coming from the increase of the productivity of our providers. And this is a reflection of this productivity. We see over 620,000 visits per year. As you can see, not unexpectedly, the majority come from internal medicine, from primary care, but all our divisions are very, very busy and productive. And I'd like to highlight some of the many initiatives that are happening in our clinical operations. I'll start by the call center. I know that many people have many opinions about the call center, but this is a challenging program. I visited the call center personally and saw the challenges that the associates that work very hard there are facing. And one big improvement that we see its impact is the cadence coordinated scheduling. That's an algorithm that guides the associate when a patient calls in for an appointment, what question to ask, and based on the answers, to guide them to the right specialist. As you know, access is a huge issue. In some specialties, we have more than 100 days wait for an appointment. That's unacceptable. And there's many access initiatives happening, such as blocking appointments and releasing them a week before, giving priority to new patients. One important initiative is the online scheduling. It's called ZocDoc, and in 3 of our divisions, pulmonary, allergy, and GI, we have pilots of physicians that are now getting their patients' appointments online, and it is highly successful with a much higher show rate. And we have a program with Crystal Run, which is a 500 faculty practice in the Hudson Valley that's referring to us complex cases through a referral program. We're working on reducing the no-show rate, which is another major issue, by streamlining the referral process and increasing the human-to-human confirmation calls as opposed to the robocalls that usually don't work. An important and exciting new initiative is the electronic consult or e-consult initiative. In this initiative, basically a primary care physician that wants a consult will put a regular consult in the chart, and a specialist will review it electronically and basically either give an answer without a face-to-face appointment or decide on how fast the appointment needs to be done, and we'll have a face-to-face appointment. In places where e-consults were implemented, such as the VA system, they've been extremely successful, reducing the face-to-face consults by 50%. The turnaround time is 48 hours, so within 48 hours, the primary care gets an answer. And also, it's a very useful way to triage patients because you immediately can see who needs to be seen earlier or later. Jasmine Porter has been doing a superb job in improving our revenue cycle. In her first 2 months on the job, she's collected $1 million that were sitting in different claim edits and stuck in other ways in the chain of the revenue cycle. Another important initiative that she's doing is to audit and train our physicians to code at the level of service. There is a trend of undercoding. Many physicians are worried that they'll be blamed for upcoding and there'll be consequences. So we're seeing a trend of downcoding, and this is not good. It's not good for the patient. It's not good for the institution. The only ones that benefit from it are the insurance companies that are paying less than they should be for the visit. So Jasmine will be auditing and training our physicians so that everybody codes at the correct level of service and that we collect the money that we deserve for this visit. Another initiative is we're creating through our data analyst in the department a physician dashboard where every physician will be able to log in and in real time see their visit volume, RVUs, collections, patient satisfaction scores, and much more. That will give full transparency and control for their physicians on their performance. And finally, a very exciting and new initiative that we're doing in collaboration with Parsa Miraji from Einstein is to use artificial intelligence or business intelligence to improve our practice operations. You can use algorithms today and machine learning to see whether you can predict on which day which practice will have a high no-show rate and then maybe overbook there more. This is a very exciting area. This is really the cutting edge and new frontier for practices, and I'd like to use this opportunity to say that anybody here, residents or faculty that want to participate in any of these initiatives, this could be a beautiful project, a QI project. We welcome you, and you can contact me directly if you're interested in any one of these initiatives that we're doing. Now, moving to research, the leadership of our research operations is Marla Keller, the Vice Chair for Research and the Associate Director of the CTSA, and Savita Webb, the Director of Research Operations and Senior Administrator. Our mission is to perform cutting-edge research to generate new knowledge that will help our patients. As a clinical department, obviously our focus is on translational research, which can be preclinical. You can do it in tissue culture or in mice, or clinical translational research, which is mostly clinical trials and outcomes research. We want to both grow the areas of strength we have, and we have a lot of them in the department, such as addiction medicine, liver, diabetes, aging, tuberculosis, critical care, and many more areas of strength. And we want to recruit in areas of deficiency, which we do have, such as IBD, obesity, nephropathies, and transplant immunology. So how are we doing? We're actually doing great. In 2015, we were ranked number 25, and last year we were ranked number 20 in the US in terms of research funding. We generate $64.5 million in NIH funding. This does not include foundations and industry, just NIH funding. And you can see that we are in a very respectable company in terms of our funding, and we aim to move even higher. As important as the tremendous amount of research and funding that we have is to train the future generation of physician scientists. And for those of you who don't know what the K Award is, this is an NIH mentored award, highly prestigious, highly competitive, and our department has 19 K awardees, which is, for those of you who don't know, this is a huge number. For our size department, most will have 10 to 15 K awardees. In fact, we're probably on our way to number 20. We have several submitted, and I know that the critical care one has a borderline fundable score, so we're crossing our fingers, we'll be at number 20. And this is across the department, obviously a large representation from general internal medicine. And these are our future physician scientists that will lead the next generation of scientists that will do translational research. And to train future scientists, even before you get a training award, we have a large representation in the clinical research training program, the CRTP. Every class of CRTP has the majority, the largest number of participants come from the Department of Medicine, and many of these later on go on to get K awards and become independent investigators. Another unique thing that our department has that very few departments in the country have is 6 NIH-designated centers. Out of the 8 NIH-designated centers at Einstein, 6 are in our department. The Cancer Center, the Diabetes Research Center, the CTSA, the Aging Center, Liver Center, and the Diabetes Translational Center. That's a huge achievement that very few departments in the country have. I don't have time to talk about all 6, so I'll mention only the 2 oldest centers we have, starting with the Liver Research Center under the leadership of Alan Wolkoff. It was established in 1974 and has been continuously funded for over 40 years. This is amazing. There are 38 funded faculty, and even though the center grant itself is not large, it's only $750,000 per year. In NIH money, it's actually not a lot. I know that to you it looks like a lot of money, but the center investigators have other grants, their own grants, and they generate together $12 million a year in NIH funding. The Diabetes Research Center, led by Jeff Pessin, was founded by Norman Fleischer in 1977 and also has been continuously funded by the NIH for nearly 40 years. It has 138 faculty, 88 in Einstein and 50 at affiliated institutions. Again, the center grant is not large. It's $1.25 million per year, but together the Einstein investigators with their other grants generate $30 million per year. The center has outstanding cutting-edge core facilities led by Gary Schwartz, Erwin Kurland, Adolfo Garcia Ocaña, Dan Stein, and Jill Crandall. Our department has a large number of clinical trials. As we speak, there are about 140 active clinical trials in medicine. This does not include cancer and oncology, generating a lot of money for this research. I encourage and we encourage every clinician to participate and run clinical trials, but you have to know that this requires a lot of training. There is a significant regulatory oversight, and you need to undergo a lot of training before you can start trials. And I want to use this opportunity for a public announcement that there is a new system for recording and following clinical trials called VELOS, and every IRB-approved protocol has to be registered in VELOS. Unless it's IRB exempt, it has to be registered. So everyone that's running clinical trials and other IRB protocols has to register them in VELOS. Sevita sent you and will send you reminders, and if necessary, I'll send you reminders, but eventually we'll all put our trials in VELOS. We have many initiatives, research initiatives in the department. I'll mention a few. There is ongoing active recruitment for the Liver Center. We just finished a cycle of recruitments for the Diabetes Research Center, recruiting outstanding researchers, and there is active recruitment by Mike Ross to nephrology. We have developed a support plan for our K awardees. So just for those of you who don't know, K awards are great, but the NIH does not give enough money for salary support or to conduct the research. Somebody else has to pitch in, and we are pitching in from help from the school and from Montefiore, and developed a K awardee support plan that will enable to give salary support so that they can have the K awardees 75% protected time to do the research, and they're getting additional OTPS or supplies money. On the average, a K awardee will receive from the department about $50,000 a year in this support, and if we have 20 K awardees, that's $1 million a year investment that we're doing in our future physician scientists. And this is, in my opinion, the best investment we're making for the future scientists. We're in the final stages of developing a similar plan to support our CRTP participants. When you participate in CRTP, you move from doing 100% clinical work to 50% clinical and 50% training in research, and that requires, again, a plan which will be rolled out very soon. Marla Keller is leading clinical trials initiatives. With 140 clinical trials, somebody has to make an oversight, make sure that everybody knows what they're doing. So Marla is streamlining the submission and oversight. We don't want it to be burdensome. We don't want it to have you do more paperwork, but we do need oversight to know who is doing what with so many clinical trials. And finally, I want to mention a beautiful resource that Marla Keller developed, which is the biostatistical support by Dr. Wenzu Mori from Epidemiology and Population Health. This is totally free. I encourage everybody, residents, faculty, to use this when you're doing research. If you do this, you see you're more likely to get your papers published and your grants funded. This is a beautiful and completely free resource that is funded by the department. Moving on to faculty affairs, the Office of Faculty Affairs is led by Liz Kitsis, the Vice Chair for Faculty Affairs and Professionalism. This is a busy office that is in charge of many things. First, credentialing. If you remember, we have 1,000 faculty. They need to be re-credentialed every 2 years, so don't need to do big math to know that we're credentialing more than 500 faculty per year. That's a lot of credentialing. The office is also in charge of appointments and promotions, and our department has had a lot of appointments and promotions in the past year. In 2017, so far 5 associate professors and 5 professors, and even more importantly, all those that were nominated through the department A&P committee so far were appointed by the school. There are a few pending. So this is a very successful and program, and we encourage our division chiefs to nominate as many people as possible that obviously deserve to be promoted. The Office of Faculty Affairs is also in charge of grand rounds, the Department of Medicine Awards, and the mentoring program. Our grand rounds have been very successful in terms of attendance. As you can see, the average attendance is over 600 per month or 150 per grand rounds. A year ago, we rolled out the remote viewing through Zoom, and as you can see, this is by far the preferred way of viewing grand rounds, and the majority are viewing it. But it also enabled us to go as far as Hudson Valley, Wakefield, White Plains. All of these places now can join our grand rounds and are joining them remotely. A beautiful initiative that was started by Liz Kitsis in 2016 is the Department of Medicine Awards. There is nothing, I think, better than being recognized by your own peers and colleagues. The awardees in 2016 were Phil Leaf for Distinguished Clinician, Clem Tego for Humanism in Medicine, and Melinda Ostrovsky for Citizenship. In 2017, you see the winners, Priya Nori, Bob Foreman, Joe DeLuca, and Golda Hudes. I would like to use this opportunity to mention that Phil Leaf retired earlier this year. We wanted to do a retirement party for him, but he did not want it. Was very shy and modest, but I do want to acknowledge his immense contributions over many decades to this department. As you know, he was vice chair, he was program director for many years, and we all owe him a lot. And finally, the mentoring program that was developed by the Office of Faculty Affairs is a very successful program. Basically, at the beginning of the academic year, those that want to participate in the program as mentees are assigned a mentor, a senior faculty in the department that works together with them to do a scholarly project. And during the year, they do work in progress seminars on the progress of this scholarly project. And we have monthly seminars on career development topics such as how to make a presentation, how to get funded, how to get a paper published. At the end of the year, we get evaluations, and you can see from the comments here that those that participated are very satisfied with their experience. And I use again this opportunity to encourage our junior faculty to join our mentoring program. I'm moving now to education. Our mission is to train the physicians of the 21st century. Yes, we are already in the 21st century. To train physician scientists, physicians that will dedicate it to social and community medicine, and most importantly, to train leaders in medicine. It is my belief that medicine is moving and already arriving at a stage where everything will be team-based. The days that you put in a little sign and open the little office to see patients are over. Everything that we do, and if we want to do it right, is done by teams, and teams need leaders, and the leaders are our future physicians and faculty. So an important part of training our medical students and residents is to train them for leadership. I'll start with undergraduate medical education. This is led by Amanda Ruff, the Associate Chair for Undergraduate Medical Education. Our department is involved in all stages of medical education. From the preclinical years, we have 130 faculty that participate in the foundation courses, and 15 course directors that are doing a terrific job in these preclinical courses. During the clinical years, the clerkship and the sub-I, we are in charge of those that rotate in the different sites. And again, our site directors, this is a very time-consuming and important work, and all our site directors are doing a terrific job. And if you don't believe me, you have to believe the students. And this is their evaluations. You can see that over 90% are ranking us as excellent or good, and this is a reflection of the terrific job that our site leaders and our preclinical course directors and faculty are doing. Another success of our medical school is that many graduates return to Montefiore. Right now we have 115 Einstein graduates in the department, including Steve Safier, our CEO, that is a member of the class of 1982. I'm moving now to graduate medical education, led by Ro Conigliaro, our residency program director. We have a highly competitive and highly successful residency program. These are our chief residents. You see our cool chief residents. With over 4,000 applicants competing for our 49 positions that we offer, and we really have a tremendous class. We enroll the top-ranked applicants. About a third of them are in our top 200. Their board scores are way above the national average and are amazing. But there's one area where we are still challenged and with to make a lot of improvement, and that is in recruiting underrepresented minority applicants. As you can see, the number that we recruited is below what we should be recruiting, and we have a departmental initiative to improve that and increase the number of minority residents that we're recruiting. And when they graduate, they're all happy, as you can see here. And the reason they're happy is because by and large, they match where they want to match in their subspecialties, or whether they go to primary care or hospitalist medicine. Our graduates are highly successful and highly sought by other programs. I can tell you that before I came here, I was the chief of endocrinology at Sinai, and I think almost every year we would take one applicant from Montefiore because we always knew that we will get great applicants from Montefiore. And I'm really have a lot of admiration for our residents. With their super busy schedule, they're still doing so much scholarly work and so much research. We have probably one of the largest representation in the Society for General Internal Medicine. 39 Monty residents presented there last year. They're all presenting at our research day. That's a picture from our research day. And at prestigious meetings such as American Heart, ASLD. These are prestigious meetings that to get to present there is a huge achievement. So with all of this hard work, they all find time to do scholarly activity. And this gives me the confidence that they are the future physician scientist leaders that will lead healthcare in this country. By and large, almost everybody passes the boards, which is another reflection on the high level of our applicants. Now, I do like to mention that there will be a leadership change in the residency program. Dr. Conegliaro decided to leave Montefiore, and I will be appointing a committee to select a new program director. I want to use this opportunity to thank Rose. She's really brought this program to such a high level and contributed so much to it, and wish her good luck. And we're lucky that Lauren Shapiro, sitting over there, agreed to be the interim program director. You all know Lauren. She's the Firm 3 leader. She was a resident here, chief resident here, was many years here, and I'm sure that she will lead the program during this time of transition in a tremendous way. We have a large residency program in Wakefield, 74 residents, and the leader is Grace Kajita, the program director there. This is also a highly competitive residency and successful residency program, again, with more than 4,000 applicants competing for 28 positions. The majority are international applicants, but they come from the top schools in their countries, and if you look at their board scores, you get humbled. They match very well. It is a very strong program, but things were not always rosy at Wakefield. When Grace took over, there were a lot of challenges. There were citations, there were ACGME issues, and Grace did a tremendous job in solving all of these issues, creating an ambulatory block, creating more research, changing the way the teams work on the floors, increasing the scholarly work. Now we're fully accredited, no citations. It's a model program, and this is all thanks to Grace Kajita's terrific work. And in Wakefield, as in Moses, the residents do a lot of scholarly work. This is the research day at Wakefield. It's the last research day we'll hold at Wakefield. This year it will be combined, Wakefield and Moses. Again, the residents are presenting at national meetings, and those of you that attended with me that research day were impressed with the poster presentation and the terrific research that's happening at Wakefield. We have several initiatives in education, and I'd like to mention them. First, in the medical school, obviously it's not just a departmental initiative, it's a school initiative, the curriculum reform, but the department is heavily involved with it, starting with the fact that the new senior Dean for Education is Josh Nasanchuk from our department, as are many people involved in that. And the goal is to bring the curriculum to the 21st century, less basic years, more clinical years, less lectures, more small group, and self-learning. Another important initiative in the school is a diversity and inclusion strategic plan led by Yvonne Ramirez. There is a strong representation from the department in the committee that has created this strategic plan that is very strong and impressive. I'm a participant in this committee, Shinazo Cunningham, Irene Blanco, Liz Kitsis, Vic Schuster. There is a strong representation in the department for the diversity and inclusion strategic plan of the school. Initiatives that are happening in the residency and fellowship. First, I'd like to mention Johanna Daly, who is now in charge of the research initiatives, the research program of our residents, and she's already working hard with the divisions to have a divisional champion in every division. So every resident that wants to do a research program in any specialty will have a person to reach that will match them with a mentor and will help them do the research. The research day has been revamped, as I mentioned. We will combine it with Wakefield, and it's a huge success. There's many QI initiatives led by Sharon Rickin and Sarah Barron, creating a curriculum, a QI curriculum for our residents. This is now a new ACGME requirement, and also leading them with QI projects. And like in the school, we have a strong diversity and inclusion initiative in the department. I'm working with Shinazo Cunningham and Irene Blanco with the goal to recruit, retain, and foster the career of minority students, trainee, and faculty. We are working on a plan to improve the recruitments of minority trainees and foster the careers, as I mentioned here. Moving to QI, many people say, I just don't have time for QI. Well, if we didn't have to, we'll still be pulling carts without wheels. So QI is very, very important. In our department, QI is divided between inpatient and outpatient. And the director of the inpatient QI is Sarah Barron. I would need 50 slides to show everything that she's doing, so I put them in circles in one slide. She's working very hard in hospital performance. She's leading the accountable care unit program that I'll talk about more later, reducing length of stay, reducing readmissions. She's in charge of peer reviews, creating a QI infrastructure in the department, leading the QI initiative. As you all know, we have new QI grand rounds that have been highly successful last year. And she's working on specific projects in preventing C. diff and VTE prophylaxis. And I just want to show you one slide to impress you with the work she's doing. This is a QI project that she did to reduce the turnaround time from the time you send a C. diff sample to the lab until you get the result. She reduced it almost by half, from close to 40 hours to 20 hours. So not only this will enable us to treat quicker or remove them from isolation precautions faster, but hopefully this will lead to more C. diff samples sent directly from the ED. So if a patient comes from the community with C. diff, it's not called a hospital-acquired C. diff because of delays in sending the samples. And this will save us a lot of money because we are penalized every time C. diff is attributed to hospital-acquired, and many of them are actually coming from the community. So this is a very important initiative, both in terms of clinical care and in terms of our finances. Sharon Rikin joined us recently as the ambulatory QI director. She hit the ground running. Before I had time to blink an eye, she already had many projects going on. In the clinics, she's working to implement guidelines, to improve workflow, and to identify and track processes and outcome measures. She is working very hard with Eric Epstein on the e-consult program that I mentioned before that will hopefully improve access and triage. And she is working on creating a curriculum and projects for our residents and fellows. And now I'd like to spend the second part of my talk to talk about specific initiatives in each division. I did it alphabetically, so I'm apologizing to rheumatology, you'll be last. But every division will get its time. I wish I had another 3 hours because I got so much information from each division, but I'm encapsulating what I think is the most important. So starting with allergy and immunology, this division is led by David Rosenstreich, the division chief. And obviously they take care of all allergy and clinical immunology conditions, but they have certain areas, centers of excellence. Elena Gershaw is the director of the Drug Allergy Center, and she has many clinical programs in drug allergy and many studies going on in drug allergy. Manish Ramesh is the director of the Food Allergy Center, is a world-renowned expert on food allergy, again, leading many clinical programs, oral immunotherapy, a center for eosinophilic esophagitis, and leading a lot of research programs in food allergies. Golda Hudes is the director of our drug trials, and as you can see, she's focusing on many new biologicals for treatment of asthma. This is a very highly successful clinical trial program. And the newest addition to the division, Melissa Imateo, she just graduated in July, and she already established a new center for desensitization for chemotherapy and biologic. This is a huge issue in the cancer center. There are many patients that need life-saving chemotherapy and biologicals that cannot get them because they're allergic to them. And Melissa is developing a center to desensitize them and allow them to get these life-saving medications. In addition, the division is collaborating with other divisions and departments. There is a severe asthma center with participation from Drs. Rosenstreich, Simon Spivak, and Sunit Jariwala. And in collaboration with ENT, we have a severe sinusitis center, and a lot of clinical and research work are happening in these centers. Moving on to the division of cardiology, under the leadership of Mario Garcia, the division chief. This is a very large division. Mario has 4 vice chiefs: Ileana Peña, the academic vice chief, David Slovut, the quality vice chief, Ulrich Jordi, the clinical vice chief, and Mark Greenberg, the Westchester vice chief. And as you can see, there are different programs with directors. I also would like to mention the very successful research arm of the division under the leadership of Rick Kitsis that are doing cutting-edge research and are well funded. There is a lot to talk about cardiology, just highlighting the procedures. This is the electrophysiology program. You can see 541 pacemaker implanted and other devices, a total of nearly 2,500 different devices implanted in the past year. But the number I love the most about this slide is the number 0. 0 mortality and almost no complications, and this is very, very impressive. The department is at the cutting edge. Every new technology is implemented here, and to mention just one of many, it's the TAVR, or transcatheter aortic valve replacement. This is a new method to put in a new aortic valve for patients that cannot undergo surgery. It opened up a new treatment opportunities for them. You see, it's a collaboration with many other departments, and it's a highly successful program. Our division of cardiology is also supporting the heart transplant program, and as you can see, we have the best outcomes in terms of survival in the tri-state area and way above the national average. Again, a tremendous achievement for the division of cardiology. As I mentioned, with all this clinical work, there's a lot of research work happening in the division of cardiology, a lot of publications, grants, and clinical trials. But our goal at the end is to have patients not need all these devices and stents and things, and there is a big initiative to do that as well. Dr. Robert Ostfeld is leading the Promoting Plant-Based Lifestyle, basically use forks and not knives. This is a highly successful program to reduce the risk for heart disease, reduce cholesterol. I'm told that it's also very helpful in helping other conditions, and the hope is that he'll eventually drive everybody else out of business by preventing diseases. So this is a very terrific program and highly successful. I'm moving on to critical care division led by Vladimir Kvetan, the division chief. It is very large division covering 113 critical care beds. We pretty much cover all the ICUs, neurosurgical ICU, surgical ICU, cardiothoracic ICU. Obviously, they're all covered 24/7. There's no other way. But the important thing is that even if the patient needs ICU and they're not in the ICU, there is the concept that was developed here of ICU without walls. The ICU will come to you and will manage the patient with you and transfer them if needed. Another huge accomplishment is that the protocols are standardized across all the ICUs in all the campuses. I've not seen it in other places. Most places, each ICU is its own little kingdom, and they do the things the way they think they're right. Here, everything is standardized. One care, standard of care everywhere. And with all of this hard clinical work, the division is one of the leading divisions in terms of research. Under the leadership of Michelle Gong, who is the Associate Chief for Research, the division has a tremendous portfolio of research studies, clinical trials, a lot of publications, a lot of grants. Just in the past year, Michelle had 2 papers in JAMA and in the New England. And to highlight just one study, the PETAL study, which is for preventing ARDS, it's a multi-center study where Montefiore is one of the #1 enrollers for this study. There are many initiatives happening in the critical care division. Again, I would need another 50 slides to show all of them, but I actually want to highlight one thing, and this shows the big thinking of the critical care division beyond just what happens within the ICU walls. Patients, eventually, we know how to save them and send them home, but many of them, when they go home, they're actually not healthy. They have what we call the post-ICU syndrome, which is a very, very severe syndrome. Somewhat in the symptoms like PTSD, and many of them can't get their life back together. And our critical care physicians care about it a lot. And under the leadership of Sharon Lung, the Associate Chief for Clinical Affairs, they have a beautiful and very out-of-the-box and innovative project to prevent the post-ICU syndrome. This is a patient post-ICU that is playing the Nintendo Wii with the idea of stimulating the brain early on, while they just recovered from the ICU, may prevent this syndrome. So this just shows you the big thinking of this division beyond the ICU walls. Moving on to the division of dermatology, led by Steve Cohen, the division chief. They cover a lot of all the dermatological conditions, but there are also certain areas of excellence that I want to highlight. First of all, in our institution, medicine is also covering all the pediatric dermatology, and this is led by Diana Lee, who is taking care pretty much of all the pediatric dermatological conditions. But with that, she's collaborative, and she's already developed 2 multidisciplinary clinics, the lupus clinic and the genetics dermatology clinic. Another center led by Beth McClellan is the oncodermatology center that deals with all the dermatological complications of cancer and its therapy. And of course, we also have a very strong cosmetic and dermatologic surgery program led by David Shoken. We can serve all your cosmetic needs, from Botox to chemical peels to you name it. Half of these things I don't even know what they are. This is a highly productive and successful program. And finally, I want to mention this center that was built by Steve Cohen, the hidradenitis suppurativa HS treatment center. As you know, this is a horrible disease, an inflammatory skin condition. I won't try to give you a clinical talk about it. I'm not a dermatologist, but there's high morbidity, a lot of social, psychological issues, and it affects mainly poor inner city population, our Bronx population. But there's not one HS center in the entire tri-state area, actually a few in the entire country. So Steve, with his own hands, established this new center, multidisciplinary center, to care for these patients, now following over 1,300 patients, our own population and way beyond the Bronx. And to me, this is a perfect example of being true to our mission. This is the heart and soul of Montefiore, to care for our population in need. I've seen in my own eyes Steve in his cell phone having given his number and patient texting him while we were meeting. He gave his cell phone number to most of these patients. They can call him day and night if they have a problem. If there's nothing better to exemplify what we're here for, I can think of it. So really, congratulations to Steve for this terrific center, where I intend to expand it, to recruit more to it, and we're supporting it. Moving on to endocrinology, this division is led by Norman Fleischer. This division was established in 1972, and it was Norman Fleischer in those days. He was the only physician in this division. But over the past 45 years, it has grown to a large division, and I want to mention the different centers. Rita Luard is the director of the Diabetes Center at the Moses campus. Joel Zonshine is the director of the Diabetes Center at the Weiler campus. Eric Epstein is the director of the Thyroid Cancer Center. Noah Blumgarten is the director of endocrine oncology. Vafa Tabatabi established a very successful bone program, and Colette Knight is leading all the endocrine programs at Wakefield. This is a very successful division, and I'm happy to report to you. You know that it was ranked number 28 by US News and World Report last rankings. The division is also very strong in research. There is more than $15 million a year in NIH funding for the division. 3 of our 6 NIH designated centers are within this division: the Diabetes Research Center, the Aging Center, and the Diabetes Translational Center. Moving on to GI liver, as I mentioned, in the near future, we'll split the division, but so far it's still together under the leadership of Alan Wolkoff, the division chief. Starting with liver, we have a very large liver division here with close to 50 liver transplants in 2016, over 5,000 Hep C patients followed, more than 100 patients of hepatocellular carcinoma being treated, and so many other activities. This is very impressive. I want to talk about this picture that was taken from an article in Cranes. This is Alvin Fisher. He's the first patient that we transplanted the Hep C infected liver, even though he is Hep C negative. Without this I talked to the surgeon. He was so low on the list that he probably would have had to wait many, many years for a new liver. Obviously, he was treated for the hep C in the transplanted liver, and it's been very successful. In fact, 2 days ago, there was a 50th anniversary of the first transplant that was performed in Montefiore in 1967, and during this celebration, I met with Sarah Bellamar, the surgeon that operated on Alvin, and she told me he's completely hep C free, he's healthy, and went back to college, I think majoring in philosophy. So that's a huge success story and just a testament to what is happening here and what we're doing for our population. The GI division is a very busy one. Alan Wolkoff gave me a lot of numbers, so you can see 1,000 endoscopies in the hospital, more than 300 endoscopies ambulatory, 400 inpatient consults, and so on and so on. The most impressive number is that we are getting over 100 requests for GI consults from MMG every day. This is a huge demand, and obviously this creates a challenging access, and we are working through eConsult and other initiatives to address this. There is a lot of research happening in the GI division. Olga Aroniadis is doing a very exciting study on microbiome in irritable bowel syndrome. Dana Lukin is working in IBD. Pravati Meyer is doing studies in genetic of colon cancer, and there's many more research happening. The division is a very well-known division and respected division, and they give a lot of courses that attract participants from all over. I want to highlight one course that happens actually tomorrow, the Bronx Live Endoscopy course, where Sami Ho is from the endoscopy suite, projects into here complex cases, teaching all the endoscopists from the tri-state area about these complex endoscopies. And now I'm moving on to the Division of General Internal Medicine, which is led by Julia Arnsten, the division chief. And this is a very busy clinical and research division. Joe DeLuca is the Associate Division Chief for Clinical Affairs. And as you can see, it's a very large and busy division clinically. They are in all our campuses, FCC, CFCC, CHCC, Wakefield, and also there is a practice group at the Hatch. Pretty much all the residents rotate there. Learning primary care. But one beautiful thing that was started in the division is the resident-run clinics. These are clinics that are run by our residents, a diabetes clinic, an opioid management clinic, pre-op clinic, medical marijuana clinic, and the newest one that was just established by our residents is the transgender program and clinic. The division is also very strong in research, thanks to Julia and Shinazo Cunningham, the Associate Division Chief for Research Resources. The division has a large research portfolio. Shinazo herself is a world-renowned expert on substance abuse, and I don't have to tell you that this is probably the most important epidemic of our time, studying the different aspects of substance abuse. And by the numbers, look at this impressive growth in research funding for the division. In over 3 years, they've doubled the research funding from $9.1 million to $20 million a year. The NIH funding went up from 8.6 to 13.7. And these are the people that do all this research and get all these grants. And you see them here. So if you wondered how a well-funded NIH investigator looks like, this is how they look. They're all happy and smiling. Moving on to our division of geriatrics, led by Joe Verghese, the division chief. This is a clinically busy division, not a big division, but involved in a lot of clinical work. The clinical operations are led by Amy Ehrlich, the Associate Chief for Clinical Programs. And I want just to highlight something very unique to our division, and that is the collaborations they have with other departments and divisions. I will highlight only 2 of these collaborations. The first one is the orthopedics geriatrics collaboration, the co-management. So for those of you who don't know, Montefiore moved all our joint replacement surgeries to Wakefield. They're all centralized there. But these patients, most of them are geriatrics, and they are now completely managed from before surgery until after surgery by our geriatricians. The surgeons only do the surgery. That's the easy part. The geriatricians are taking care of everything else, and this has improved outcomes tremendously. It's a huge success, and again, a testament to how collaborations work. Another beautiful program started by Joe Verghese is the Center for the Aging Brain. It's a collaboration with the Department of Neurology, where elderly patients with cognitive problems can be evaluated and treated by top experts or enrolled in trials. There's a lot of trials happening there as well. There is a lot of research happening in the geriatrics division, and I want to highlight especially the 3 new K awardees in the division, Helena Blumen, Claudine George, and Mirnova Sid. All of them have K awards, and there is additional research, NIH-funded research, a big portfolio in the division. The division of hematology is led by Henny Billet, the division chief. It is a very active division with a lot of scholarly work, as you can see, and clinical work. The division has several centers that I'd like to mention: the Hemophilia Treatment Center, the Bone Marrow Service, the Thrombosis Center, and I'd like also to mention specifically the sickle cell program that had a significant reduction after Ron Nagel passed away, but was totally reinvigorated by Katrina Miniti and now Ogu that joined in and rebuild it from the ground up. It is very successful, growing. They're working now together with pediatrics, so there'll be seamless transition from pediatric to adult sickle cell, and really a lot of congratulations for Katrina and Oguchi. Moving on to the hospital medicine division, a large division led by Will Southern, the division chief. It is a large division. As you know, Jeff Sereznak is the associate division chief and Sarah Baron, the director of QI. There are 3 site directors, Jessica Dektiar, Tulay Aksoy, and Andrea Porvecchio, that are leading our 3 sites. And overall, 80 hospitalists and 170 APs are doing the hospital work of this division. I could have many slides here to show what they're doing, but I want to highlight some things. And the first one is the accountable care unit that I mentioned before, ACU. This is a new concept that I think will revolutionize the way we take care of patients on the inpatient. You have a unit medical director that's one of our hospitalists working with the nurses, the care managers, the social worker as one team, one happy family to improve the care of the patients. And every place that Will Southern rolled out an ACU, we saw a significant improvement in outcomes, and we're continuing to roll out ACUs throughout the health system. The division is very active academically and in education. Pretty much every medical student and every resident will go through the hospital medicine division, and as you can see here, the division is involved in pretty much educating from first-year medical students all the way to our residents. Moving on to ID, the ID division is led by Lizan Pirovsky, the chief of ID. This is a division that is very large and has many centers. I'd like to highlight some of them. The AIDS Center led by Barry Zingman, the Oval Center, which is a sexual transmitted disease center, the travel program, the immune-compromised infectious disease program, and many others. 3 initiatives out of many in the division that I'd like to highlight. One of them is the outpatient antibiotic therapy, OPAT initiative, led by Teresa Madeleine and Priya Nori, that really changed in the way we are now taking care of patients that need to go home on IV antibiotics. Very successful and increasing demand for it and a growing program. There is a new initiative for emergency department ID support service, so we can take care of those patients that come in infection right at the emergency department and not delay antibiotic treatment. And another creative initiative led by Uma Sarwar and Greg Weston, the critical care medicine. So we have now specific ID specialists that are covering our ICUs, and this has been very successful. The division is very strong in research. They have a large research portfolio. I can't name everyone, but I'd like to mention Jacqueline Ashkar that recently got several funds to study tuberculosis, Jonathan Shooter, Lizan Pirovsky herself, Barry Zinman, and Marla Keller, and many others that are doing research in the division. Mike Ross is the new chief of the renal division. He arrived in June and hit the ground running, already started a lot of initiatives. The division covers obviously all renal conditions. The faculty in the divisions are the medical directors in 10 Bronx dialysis units, pretty much covering the entire Bronx population. And we are following 1,000 ESRD patients. They're obviously doing a lot of procedures, and there is a lot of research happening and growing in the division. Another important part of the division is the group of transplant nephrologists that we have in the division. In the past year, there were 174 kidney transplants in Montefiore, and our nephrologists work very collaborative with the surgeons to pre and post-op treatment. And there is a very strong research portfolio. The group, by the way, is led by Enver Akalin, and Enver and Maria Ajami and many others are involved with many trials in our renal transplant patients. The pulmonary division is led by Simon Spivak, the division chief. It is an active division taking care of everything from asthma to COPD. I'd like to highlight the newest recruit, Harish Sithamraju. He was recruited together with a lung transplant surgeon out of Methodist in Baylor, Scott Shainin, and together they are building our new lung transplant program. We hope to have the first transplant in Montefiore within the next few months. Harish is already very active and already has seen quite a few patients that may be candidates for transplant. Also, I want to mention Ali Saduki and Shirag Shah, who are the advanced bronchoscopy specialists. They get referrals from all over for advanced bronchoscopic procedures. The division is very active in research. Simon Spivak is doing research on diagnosing lung cancer through a breath test. Sunit Jariwala and many others. But I'd like to mention also David Prezant, who is leading the World Trade Center program. For those of you who don't know, this is a program in which the first responders, the firefighters, those that ran into the buildings first and then later continued the rescue efforts, risking their lives and also inhaling the huge amount of dust that was there. There was a congressional law called the Zidroga bill, that gave money to make sure that they did not develop medical conditions and to follow them. David Prezant is a leader in this, probably has the largest program in the country of World Trade Center, and just recently renewed a $10.4 million grant from the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health to follow these firefighters that were in the World Trade Center. And finally, rheumatology. This division is led by Chaim Potterman, the division chief. It is a division that is very busy on the outpatient and in the inpatient. You can see they're seeing a lot of patients, they're doing a lot of procedures, and they're very active on the research, doing research in lupus, rheumatoid, osteoarthritis, and many other conditions. I want to mention specifically the tremendous database and biobank that Chaim built over many years of more than 400 lupus patients that is now a resource for investigators from around the world to collaborate to study lupus. The Division of Rheumatology had many accomplishments in the past year. To mention just a few, Irene Blanco was promoted to associate professor and Clem Tego to full professor. Clem Tego received the inaugural Humanism Award. We have many people in leadership at Monty and Einstein from the rheumatology division, and Anna Broder and Irene Blanco got new grants. Now, this is my favorite Einstein quotes. There are numerous of Einstein quotes. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep on moving. If you don't keep on moving, you'll fall. But if you're moving on your bicycle, you better know where you're moving, or you'll go in circles or in the wrong direction. So we're working now on finding the right direction for the department, and this is our strategic plan or roadmap for the future. So I assembled a steering committee that has been working for several months on the strategic plan, and our starting point were our values. Our values are listed here, as you can see: diversity, integrity, teamwork, innovation, social justice, excellence, transparency. And based on these values, we chose 5 pillars: clinical pillar, research, education, diversity and inclusion, and recruitment and retention of faculty and faculty development. For each one of these pillars, we're creating subcommittees that will work in that specific pillar to create a roadmap for the future, a strategic plan. Now, my view of a strategic plan is not something that ends up with a nice glossy document that we hand around to be proud of what was written, but this is going to be our to-do list, my to-do list, and we will check that indeed we are doing that. The groups will do a gap analysis, where they'll check the status of the department now, what's our gaps, and how we'll fill them with the strategic plan. And finally, I want to finish where we started. This is our mission. Everything that we're doing is to serve this mission, to be true to our mission. And I really thank everybody that joined us here and remotely for these grand rounds. Thank you very much.